Hello everyone, welcome back to my Let's Play of Zelda Outlands, a hack of the original Legend of Zelda game that takes place after Zelda 2. Here we are in level 3. We're not going to complete this dungeon because we can't complete the dungeon. In order to complete this dungeon we're going to need the ladder, but can't get the ladder because we need the whistle, and we can't get the whistle until we get the raft, and we can't get the raft until we get the, in level 2, until we get the meat in level 3. So rather than having to do a whole bunch of backtracking, as you can see, we already have a whole bunch of backtracking to do. We're just going to head into level 3 here, because it was kind of conveniently located near level 1. And we're going to pick up the meat. That'll save us a bunch of backtracking to level 2. We're still going to have to backtrack to level 2, but we're going to have to backtrack there only once instead of twice. So this is one thing that shows the difficulty of this game. A lot of times we're sent into dungeons woefully under-equipped. These are basically the Pole's voices of the game. The sprites have been replaced with these tick-tight sprites. And normally you would have the bow and arrow, and you can take these guys out in one shot. But we don't have the bow and arrow, and we won't be able to get the bow and arrow until we get the raft. And yeah, so we're going to have to go through this room no matter what without the bow and arrow. Or the white sword or anything, because you can't get that until you get the raft either. So we're stuck going through this whole room that's very difficult to navigate because narrow passages, taking out these enemies, and with just the wooden sword, they're going to take 10 hits to defeat, and each of them hits you for 2 hearts worth of damage without the blue mail. So basically, they need to take 10 hits to defeat, and they can defeat us in 2. So, yeah, challenge is really ramped up in this. So, especially until at the beginning here, when you basically have no equipment. So, once again, we're going to fight smart. We're just basically going to hide out in this doorway, because the enemies can't get at you in the southern doorways. Now, over to the doorways on the sides, sometimes the enemies can sneak in there. I guess it's just the way that they've been programmed. Sometimes the enemies act kind of strangely in this hack. They can go into the side walls, or they will just leave the screen entirely. We're going to leave that one guy there because we're going to have to come back through this room, backtrack through the room. Now, if we defeat all the enemies, they'll respawn after a certain amount of rooms. So we don't want to defeat all of them, because we don't want all those tick-tights to respawn. So, but we do want to come into this room here, because if we come into this room from the south here, we can easily snipe these Dark Nut enemies, which have been replaced with a palette swap of Link. And we're hoping for a bomb drop, because there's going to be 2 rooms later on that we're going to want to have a lot of bombs for. There's going to be a room full of blue Dark Nuts. Once again, tough enemies at this point in the game. 2 hits take us down. They take 5 hits to defeat with the wooden sword. And a room with a manhandler. So we got lucky there. We got a bomb drop. Now the way these guys move, if we just sneak in the way that I just did there, they'll never hit you. So. And we've cleared out this room mainly of the tick-tight enemies, so it should be a breeze to sneak through. Just be careful. And here we're going to be at like the, I guess the fork in the road. To the left, we can't really proceed to the left because we're going to run into a dead-end room that we need the ladder to cross. So we're going to head into this room here, take out these. Basically, they look like the like monsters, but they're actually the Zol monsters, and as you can see, when you hit them, they split into the gels, which are the fairies. Which have been replaced with fairies in this game. And we want to defeat all these enemies. Unfortunately, because we're not technically defeating them with the wooden sword, because they're splitting, they will respawn when we come back to this room. But we have to defeat them first here, so we can push this block and get the meat. And what I'm about to do here, you don't necessarily have to do, but since I'm going for 100% completion, and that includes getting every single room in the map done, I'm going to make this journey over to the right side of the map. because it's going to be a little bit difficult, but these rooms can be cleared out now, and that'll prevent us from having to backtrack into them later on. So bombs are our friends here against these guys. Rather than taking 5 shots with a wooden sword, they only take 2 bombs, because the bombs are 3 times as strong as the wooden sword. They're basically the same power as the magical sword. Now once we get a few of them out of the way, we just basically snipe them, and the terrain actually works in your favor. These statues, the Darknut statues there, you can stab up through them because your sprite kind of goes into them a little bit from the bottom, and that means your sword can stick up through them. So if they're a column above you, or a row above you actually, rows and columns mixed up, rows are horizontal, columns are vertical. If they're in the row above you, you can just stab them through the statues, and they won't be able to hit you because they don't have a beam, or they don't actually shoot, so they just deal damage by running into you. But you don't want to take damage from them because, like the Tick-Tites, they take off 2 hearts of damage. Here we have our Manhandler looking enemy. He's a little less scary, but he is still creepy looking. Instead of mouths trying to eat you, he's got eyes. So, whew, got lucky there. We got the compass, the fairy compass. And here we have Stalfoses, but they're actually Gibdoses, so they're going to take 8 hits to defeat. So, but luckily we can stun them with our boomerang, so they're not much of a problem. And luckily they can potentially drop bombs, so we want to definitely stack up on our bombs. I said it a bunch of times. I said it before, and I said it a bunch of times in the previous video. Bombs are going to be our friend, especially in the early game when we're very woefully equipped to deal with the enemies that we're encountering. So, and we got our second bomb pickup there. So back to 4 bombs. Speaking of bombs, in the base Legend of Zelda game, there were 2 bomb pickups to get from Zelda, from the old man. For 100 rupees, so you can have a max of 16 bombs. In this game, I guess because they realized that bombs are so good and so powerful, they've actually increased, they doubled the amount of bomb upgrades that you can get. So you can have a max of 24 bombs. Of course, that just means more rupee farming, because each of the bomb bags are going to cost 100. So the developer definitely liked rupee farming and backtracking, so staple in this little ROM hack. Try this wall. Well, we already did. And I should have did this room to the right when I first came through this area, because I had already defeated these orange iron knuckles, orange dark nuts. They're iron knuckles in Zelda 2, so I wouldn't have to defeat them here, but luckily they're pretty easy with bombs. They only take 1 bomb to defeat. However, when fighting these guys, you got to be careful when you're dropping bombs, because if you drop a bomb in front of them, it's not going to damage them. See, that guy just got pushed back, even though he walked over the explosion. The game basically counts where the way you were facing them when you drop the bomb. So if you're facing them and drop the bomb, even if they walk over it and the bomb blast hits them in the back, it's not going to count, because the game only looks at your position relative to when you lay down the bomb. So you want to have them be either on their sides or behind them when you drop the bomb. So 12 guards watch the dungeon's gate, and that's going to be our clue where we're going to find level 4. We've got to look for a screen where there's going to be 12 basically armor statues. So, but now we've done all that we can in this dungeon for now. Like I said, we're going to have to come back here once we get the ladder. It's sad that because the blue mail is in this dungeon. It would be nice to be able to pick that blue mail up, but we can't. So, but once you get the ladder, we'll be able to clear out a whole bunch of stuff. There's an item over to the left. To the right is a heart container. So, yeah, but we'll be back level 3. We'll be back. But right now, our goal is now to head to level 2, because we have the meat, and we needed that meat to be able to pass through a hungry moblin to be able to get the raft. So that's little detours going to save us a whole bunch of backtracking, because as you're about to see, the trek to level 2 is really, really long. And right now we really have no way to fast travel. We don't have a whistle to use the warp whistle, and we don't have the power glove to push the rocks to create those pick any road you want type guys. So we're going to have to hoof it. Chloe is going to have to hoof it here. So just farm as many enemies as we can for the, like I said, the rupees, because our first big rupee purchase is going to be after level 2. So a few screens over, actually be the next screen, we're going to see where the raft dock is. So yep, and right past there is going to be where a whole bunch of better equipment is waiting for us. The white sword and the bow and the arrow. Just slow and steady. Now, because we're so weak, it might be a good idea, unfortunately because they were grouped weird there, to maybe leave an enemy alive. If you don't defeat all the enemies on a screen, when you come back to that screen, however many enemies you left alive on the screen is just going to be how many enemies are going to be there. So if I defeated all those Gorias there, if I came back to that screen after a few screens, all the Gorias would respawn. But I left one alive, so next time I come back to that screen, there's only going to be one there. Now that makes rupee farming harder, because there's going to be less enemies to defeat for rupees, but at the same time too, when you're so weak right here, enemies are kind of posing a big threat. So we don't want to be walking through a whole bunch of enemies, a whole big gauntlet of enemies. So at this point in the game, it's better to just, leave a few enemies around and only farm from the weaker enemies. So, like I said, my favorite enemy to mainly grind from is the lever enemies, which are going to be bots in this game. And we'll see them shortly when we head into the desert over here. Getting into the drier climate, I guess you can say, because the green trees turn brown, and now the soil even here is kind of taking on a sandy type color. We have a secret passage here. We can bomb here, and it's going to be a medicine person. In this game, the medicine person also sells the meat. So, and here we have the little lever enemies, which are bots. They tend to drop lots of rupees, so pretty good place to farm. So, mainly just the orange ones. The blue ones, they deal a lot of damage and they take a lot of hits, so yeah, not necessarily going to worry about farming from them. And we're just going to sneak past as many of these guys as possible. You can stun them with your boomerang. Here's something pretty neat here. We have these moldworm enemies, which were only found in the dungeons in the base game, but here they put them on the outside, so that's pretty neat. So it's something that some of the developers of Zelda Classic fan-made games do. So we just head up this little ladder right here, and we head into this here, and this will be level 2, and that's what we're going to pick up in our next episode. Take care, have a good day, bye.